Hot take. Most RAG systems do not need a vector store, and adding one too early can make your answers worse, slower, and harder to debug.
That sounds extreme, but it is mostly true. A vector store is useful for semantic retrieval, not for proving that your system is sophisticated.
So what is the real decision here? Not tooling fashion, but whether your retrieval problem actually needs fuzzy meaning instead of exact matching.
Exactly. If users ask for known terms, IDs, file names, API names, policy codes, or exact phrases, keyword search or a normal database is often enough and usually better.
Give me a concrete case, because this is where teams usually overbuild.
Imagine an internal doc spot for engineers. If people ask things like, what does error E137 mean? Or show the rate limit for /v2 billing, BM25, full text search, or even indexed SQL can outperform embeddings because the critical tokens matter.
And if you push that into a vector index too early, what goes wrong?
You can lose precision. Embeddings may retrieve pages that are conceptually related to billing or errors, but miss the exact endpoint or code. That means the model sounds plausible while citing the wrong chunk. That is a trust problem, not just a relevance problem.
So when does a vector store actually earn its keep?
When the wording varies a lot, but the intent is the same. Fake customer questions, long natural language queries, messy support logs, meeting notes, research papers, or legal clauses phrased 10 different ways.
In other words, when users do not know the right keywords, exact search starts to collapse.
Right. If a user asks, can I get money back if the software never worked for us? The useful source might say, refund eligibility for non-functional deployments. No shared keywords, same meaning. That is where vector search helps.
Let's make this practical. Say I am building a support assistant over 50,000 tickets and help center articles. What should I watch for?
That is a good vector candidate, because people describe the same issue in wildly different language. One person says, screen froze. Another says, UI became unresponsive. And another says, spinner never stops. Exact term matching gets brittle fast.
But problem size matters too, right? People act like vectors are about intelligence, when sometimes they are just about scale.
Scale changes the economics. If you have 200 documents, you can often get far with straightforward filtering, metadata, and keyword search. At 20,000 mixed documents, manual curation breaks down. At millions of chunks, retrieval strategy becomes the system.
So small collections reward clarity, while large collections punish naive search.
Yes, but size is not just document count. It is also vocabulary spread, chunk quality, metadata richness, update frequency, and how expensive a bad answer is. 10,000 legal clauses can be harder than 100,000 product descriptions.
That last part matters, because if the cost of being wrong is high, sloppy semantic retrieval is dangerous.
Exactly. In compliance, finance, or operations, the winner is not the team with the fanciest retriever. It is the team that can explain why a chunk was returned and prove it was the right one.
Give me another example where a normal database wins cleanly.
A sales ops assistant answering questions from structured CRM data. Things like account owner, contract end date, renewal amount, region, product tier. That belongs in SQL or your transactional database with filters, joins, and permissions. Turning rows into embeddings is often wasteful and less reliable.
So vector stores are bad at exact facts?
Not bad, just not the first tool I would reach for. If the answer is already in structured fields, retrieve it structurally. Use vectors for the messy text around the deal, like call notes or open-ended objections.
That suggests a more honest architecture, not vector store versus database, but where each one draws the boundary.
Yes, the strong pattern is hybrid retrieval. Use metadata filters and keyword search for precision, vectors for semantic recall, then re-rank. That reduces hallucination risk and keeps retrieval aligned with the question type.
And if a team skips that thinking?
They usually build a demo that feels magical for 5 queries, then fails in production on the expensive ones. The strategic mistake is assuming retrieval quality is a model problem when it is often a data and indexing problem.
So, If I am deciding this week, what is the simplest test?
Sample real user questions. If success depends on exact terms, identifiers, dates, filters, or joins, start with keyword search or a normal database. If success depends on matching intent across different wording, add vector retrieval. Measure both on the same eval set before you commit.
And the reason problem size matters is that the bigger and messier the corpus gets, the more semantic recall can save you. But the more mistakes can also spread if your retrieval is weak.
That is the trade-off. A vector store is useful when language mismatch is the bottleneck. It is unnecessary when exact lookup is the job. The smartest RAG teams do not ask, should we use vectors? They ask, what kind of miss can we afford?